But things kind of started going downhill. My parents got divorced, and while they were going through divorce, stopped going to church, and just completely took a 180 from my normal routine in life. Started failing in every single class. I didn't care about school at all. So, and I just really didn't realize that at the time, that I was completely changing my ways. But after middle school is when my parents finalized the divorce and I was forced to move. My dad stopped paying for our house, so we were forced to move from Modesto, and we moved with family up into Folsom. So I had to leave all of my friends that I knew, all the family that we had down there. We moved completely, had left everything that we had, came to just live with family, and just started anew. And with this opportunity that I was given to start something new, I saw an opportunity to become somebody who I was not. I saw that if I wanted to be popular, I could be popular. If I wanted to do something that I'd never done before, I could try it and I could be that. And so I was far away from God at this point. I wanted to just do my own thing. And so I started going to this new school, and my sister started hanging out with the bad crowd. I have two older sisters and two younger sisters. But my oldest sister was already moved out of the house by now. So the sister that's a year and a half older than me started hanging out with the crowd that's just drinking and smoking every day after school. And I was thinking, I'll never become part of that. You know, I could become somebody who I'm not, but I'm not going to become part of that. I'd never been close to that. My family was never close to that. So I was like, there's no way. But after freshman year, I tried smoking cigarettes and weed for the first time, and then I started drinking. And from then on, all throughout my sophomore year, I was smoking and drinking probably almost every day. And that led to other things. So after my sophomore year, I'm still failing all through school I'm failing. And towards the end of my sophomore year, I just had all this anger built up. My sister was going to counseling to talk to them about my parents' divorce, and I kind of like to keep things bottled up. I didn't ever like sharing with other people how I felt. And so when things bottled up inside of me, I would get bursts of anger and I'd just lash out on people, and I liked to fight. And so towards the end of my sophomore year, I got in a fight and got expelled from school. And I was going to a really good school. I wish I could have stayed there, but I was failing school anyways. They wanted to kick me out. So I started going to continuation school, and that made things way worse than they'd already become. I got led into other drugs, led to drinking more. I mean, right after school we'd go hang out and I'd start drinking and smoking. And so the junior year came around and I showed up to school high and got kicked out. And they kicked me out of the school district into another school. And from there I just started getting into more things. You know, you get put in a different crowd and it opens you up to more things than you were in before. And so here I am given another opportunity to become somebody who I'm not and try things that are new, and it's horrible the things that I started getting into. I started getting into pills, and then I started selling. So that was my entire junior year. And I remember my senior year, I get about halfway through it, and I get a call from my dad. I hadn't talked to him in about 2 years, and he was telling me that I had the lowest GPA in my school. And he's like, "Can you believe that?" And I was like, "I really didn't know. I had been so far from school. I didn't even care about school." So he's like, "You're not going to graduate. You're coming back as a super senior. You're going to be 18, 19 years old, still in school." He's like, "You're probably not even going to go to college. You're just going to waste your life away." He's like, "I don't want anything to do with you." And I told him, I was like, "No, you're wrong. I'm going to graduate." And he's like, "It's impossible. I mean, you go talk to your counselor when you get back from winter break, and they're going to tell you the exact same thing." So I went back to school, and my college counselor, my principals, all my teachers said the same thing. "It's impossible. You have your whole junior year and your senior year left to do. And like, you keep following on the path that you're going, that's like the only thing is you're going to come back next year." And so I told myself my New Year's resolution was I was going to quit smoking, I was going to quit drinking, all of this, everything. So I stopped it all. And from March until April, I finished like 83 credits for school, and I ended up graduating early. And the whole reason why I wanted to graduate early and actually graduate that year is because I wanted to go into the military and follow my dad's footsteps. And I mean, my dad was never around. He was in the military for 24 years. So I never really had a father figure, but from what I knew about my dad is he made a great career out of something, and so I wanted to follow in that. So I went in the Army right out of high school, and I was like, man, this is awesome. I get to leave everything that I had. I don't have to deal with drugs anymore. I don't have to deal with the same people. I can start fresh. But then doing so, I was left with an opportunity again to become something I'm not. To become somebody who's different than what I had already become. And so I did fine all the way through basic, ended up graduating top of my class. And I get out of basic and we go to advanced individual training. And right when we get there, they pretty much let us do whatever we wanted. I started going off post and drinking, started getting back into pills. I couldn't get my hands on weed, so I started smoking pills. It was to the point where every single day in the military, I'm doing the same thing that I was doing in civilian life. So I was actually further hurting myself than before I even went in the military. I was doing worse off than I already was. And I had money just coming in to do this all. You know, unlike before where I was having to sell things, I was actually just had all this money and I could spend it on whatever I wanted to. So I remember I'm in the barracks one day and I was on 20 pills of triple C's. And the sergeant first class was just within the top 3 ranks of the military. He comes up to me and he's like, you know, I noticed outside that something was wrong with you. I was like, no, nothing's wrong, Sergeant, nothing. He's like, well, I want to come talk to you. And I was like, okay. So I go into my room and he tells everybody to get out. And he was telling me to put on my shoes. And I don't even remember it that good, but I remember it took me about 10 minutes and I couldn't even get my shoes on. And that's the point I realized. I was like, man, I'm doing something horrible to my body. I couldn't even get my shoes on to take a walk with this sergeant. I was the sickest I had ever been, I could say, on a drug. It was disgusting. And so he told me, he's like, you keep following this path, you're going to get kicked out of the military. And I didn't believe him. But I knew I needed to make a change. I was like, there's something here that I need to do. And you'd think this is the point where I'd give my life to Christ, but it wasn't. And I wish I would have back at that point. So probably about a month after that, I'm just about to graduate AIT, and I would have been going to Germany for 4 whole years. And I would have been able to drink as much as I wanted to over there. I would have been legal to drink. Could have done it as much as I wanted to. But that wasn't God's purpose. It wasn't His plan. So that weekend, right before I was about to graduate, I got drunk, came back to the barracks, and this guy started mouthing out to me, and I, being the person that I already was, all this anger built inside, I just wanted to fight him. And so that's what I did. I fought him, and a window ended up getting broken. So the sergeant down on the CQ desk heard that the window got broke, and he came up and wanted to know what happened. So he took us all downstairs. We sat in this room for like 5 hours without talking. I just sat there and stared at a blank wall, just thinking about what we had done. And I knew right there, I was like, this is not going to be good. I've already had an experience where they told me I mess up again, I'm out of the military. But I didn't want to believe that everything that I had just done, that everything I had worked for was about to come to an end. There was no possible way that my whole career that I was about to start is just going to be taken away from me. But it did. I waited a month and a half, sitting in this barracks every single day, watching classes go through week by week for a whole month and a half, knowing that I could have graduated with them. And they're like, basically, you're waiting on your paperwork to go through, you're going to be discharged from the military in less than 2 months, and you're going back to the streets, exactly where you came from. And so I sat there every single day. And what that did to me is it put a toll on me where not only did I have anger issues now that were 10 times worse than what I had before, I had depression that I had never had before. I never had depression. And that led to suicidal thoughts. Every single day I'd wake up in the barracks and I wanted to kill myself. I didn't see myself going back to California and starting over again and going back to the same old thing. I saw myself killing myself in South Carolina and never going back to anything. I would have just been done. This seemed the easiest route for me. And I ended up not doing it. So I came back to California, the day I got discharged. And all I wanted to do was drink. And I remember my parents telling me that, oh, we're going out of town this weekend, we're going to a family friend's house. So I was like, well, here's my opportunity to just, let's just get everything off my mind that I've been going through. Maybe all of this will, bring something good. People always tell you, when you go through something, there's something that'll strengthen you on the other side. But I really never believed that. And it was something that I never really looked forward to, but for some reason, I saw that in that weekend. I was like, you know what, there's something different about this weekend. I'm going to go there. I'm going to get everything off my mind. But little did I know that it was going to be God speaking to me. And so that weekend, the day after I get discharged, I'm drinking at a family friend's house, and I'd smoked. And I was so far gone, my mind was gone. I wasn't thinking about anything at all. Everything, all the anxiety and depression and anger and frustration and thinking back of, man, I could have changed something. That was all gone. I wasn't thinking about it. And one of our family friends came to me and started talking to me about God, and I was just like, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't care about God. I really don't even want to hear this, because right now I just want to focus on this moment. So she comes back to me about 2 hours later. And there was something different about this time. She came to me with the Bible, and God's word is very powerful. She started, speaking to me, reading things from the Bible, and there was something about it that just caught my ear, and I just she had my undivided attention, or I could say God had my undivided attention finally, to where He could come inside of me, and He did. He planted a seed. But it didn't happen overnight where I changed my ways. It took about 3 months. So for 3 months, I'm trying to seek God's word in the Bible. I wanted to make that change. I saw that, God had made a step towards me and tried to pull me out of something, but I didn't know why, and I didn't know where I was going to next. So one night I went home, right after I almost committed suicide. I was on my way home from work, and I saw my entire life flash before my eyes. I'm sitting in my car, and the last thing I saw was just myself swerving into oncoming traffic, and then I was dead. It was just black. And so all of a sudden I came back to reality, and I'm still driving, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I've never had that happen like that before. I thought about suicide, but to see it actually happen, in my mind, I was like, wow, it's so easy. That's all I have to do. And then I almost did it. And then I pulled over on the side of the road and I broke down crying. And I was like, no, there's something more than this. That's not what God saved me for, so I could go commit suicide. So I went home and I told my parents what happened. And they're like, well, we have no choice, but we're gonna send you to rehab. You need to go see a specialist about this and all this stuff. And I didn't even want to hear that. I was like, I don't want to go see a specialist. They can't help me at all. But I was like, you know what, if that's what you guys want me to do, I'm going to do it. So I went in my room and I prayed about it. I really didn't know anything about praying, but that night, God told me, He put it in my heart not to go. Don't go to rehab. Don't do that yet. And I didn't know why. So all weekend I'm sitting on it from Friday until Sunday. I'm like, I'm about to go Monday to rehab. But Sunday night I got down on my knees and I started praying. And what I remember is I'm just thinking about what I was going through and why I was feeling the way I was feeling. It was because I hadn't given everything to God yet. I hadn't sacrificed things in my life for God sacrificing things to me. I hadn't given Him my heart yet, and that's all He wanted. So I finally realized that. My eyes were opened up to that. And right there, I realized why God told me not to go to rehab. And my heart just poured out. My spirit broke free from my flesh. And I gave God everything. I gave Him all my addictions. I gave Him my anger issues and my suicidal thoughts. And that night, God laid down His hand and He healed me and took all of that from me. Next morning, I woke up and I was just this feeling of joy that I'd never felt before. And it was so amazing to actually feel God come into my heart and take desires from it and put His love and compassion and His grace inside of me and pull me out of that. So that's basically where that ends. From there on out, I've just been trying to strengthen my relationship with Him and remove things from my life and sacrifice things for my relationship with Him and just keep growing. So if we could all come into prayer really quick, I just want to pray that, no matter what we're going through, it doesn't have to be an addiction with drugs, it doesn't have to be an addiction with alcohol, or maybe anger issues, suicidal thoughts. It could be anything in our lives that we haven't given unto God yet. Because all He wants is our heart to be following Him. He wants our heart to be guided by Him and not by these earthly things. So let us open up to God and allow Him to take desires from our heart that are, eliminating, or that have this wall between you and God. Let Him remove those things so that it's just a straight path with your relationship with God so that He can guide you. We can all go to prayer.